Hi, Michelle.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, and you are all the way in Texas,
Yep.
and I am in Michigan. This is so fun to connect over technology. I love it.
Yep.
And for those of you joining, I am just conducting some interviews with arts industry professionals to just talk about the arts and the importance of the arts. And Michelle here is a flute player. And we know each other through actually your sister.
Yep, that's right.
And why don't you, Michelle, could you just kind of introduce yourself and talk about specifically your career path and where you studied and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. So I got my bachelor's at, and as I said, I'm Michelle Pokley. Um, and I got my bachelor's at Bowling Green State University in flute performance in Bowling Green, Ohio. And I got my master's in classical flute at the Manhattan School of Music in New York City. And yeah, so I'm a flute player. I teach privately. Still doing that, believe it or not, over online. And yeah, I just kind of, my husband and I kind of uprooted our lives and moved to Texas, as you said. So I'm still kind of new to Texas. So just kind of figuring out where I'm going from here. But I am already teaching, which is awesome. But yeah, definitely looking out for performance opportunities. Still, auditions, competitions, that whole kind of thing.
Yeah. And Michelle, how did you get started in the flute?
So my mom kind of made us all start an instrument. We all had to play piano, and I'm terrible at piano. But we all were supposed to pick an instrument once we hit sixth grade, when you typically start in public schools. And I wanted to play the drums, and my
Oh, really?
oh yeah, and my mom said no. We had a friend who already owned a flute, and she said, you know what, you're gonna play the flute, and then if later you want to switch to drums, then you can. And
Hmm.
so I spent like half the year on flute, and after that, I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think I'm gonna become a professional flute player. This was sixth grade, and I decided that that's what I was
Oh,
gonna do.
wow, you knew that early on.
Oh yeah. Um,
That's amazing.
Yeah, like those American Girl dolls. Are you familiar with that? Yeah, I had one of
Yep.
those. I sold her and all her stuff just so I could buy a flute and a piccolo, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do with my life.
That's amazing. I did not know that I wanted to actually pursue music really as a career until I was probably a senior in high school.
Wow.
That's when I finally decided kind of I was going to continue with that. So that's amazing that you knew early on. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. So Michelle, what has been your favorite project that you've ever been a part of musically?
Sure. So I've been thinking about that question, and this wasn't a professional project, but in in my master's degree, we had this assignment that my professor called an informance, and this would be something that I'd love to do in my as like a professional project. But it was so fun. We got paired up with different students, different instrumentation, and mostly it was crazy instrumentation. Um, and we had to come up with different pieces to play and a theme, and it had to be almost theatrical. And
Hmm.
it had to basically, we were assigned different like demographic groups. So we had I think just peers who didn't really know anything about music, weren't trained in music at all, and we just kind of came up with this crazy fun script, and it kind of turned into a competition in the class, and my group won, which was really fun. But yeah, it was comedic, it was fun, and it was a good reminder that music doesn't have to be boring and stuffy, and it can absolutely be fun for people who don't even know anything about music. So
Yeah. And I think once when I was visiting your house, you were practicing a piece that was like beatboxing on. The flute. Can you talk a little bit about that and technically what that requires of you?
Sure. Yeah, so that I started getting into beatbox in high school because the teacher I was with at the time, first of all, she's written books, like The Art of Beatbox Flute, and so she's very proficient at it. But there was a competition, and one of the pieces that you could choose to play was a beatbox piece, and I was like, well, obviously I won't choose that one. And she said, oh no, you'll learn it. You're gonna do it. So that's how I got into that. Yeah, it's difficult. It's kind of like you know how to play the flute, but now you've got to learn this whole nother skill and do it at the same time. And like there was singing while playing, there was beatboxing while playing. It was a lot, but yeah, making the drum noises is difficult. How I'm trying to figure out how to answer what does it require. Lots of stomach muscle, I guess. Yeah, and coordination for sure.
Uh-huh. And what did you end up playing that at? Was it an event or for a class?
Oh gosh, I should know this. Southeast Michigan flute competition. I think
Okay.
it's been a few years.
Yeah, I just remember how it just sounded so technically challenging. Just because, you're doing so many things with your mouth and your tongue and your breath. And it's like, whoa, your sister said, please beatbox.
I have not done it in a while, so I can try,
Oh, I'd love it.
but it might be terrible. I'm gonna be honest. I have not done it in literally like years. Hang on. I'm gonna cover my mouth because otherwise my mouth will look weird. So here we go. Yeah. So
Yes.
yep. So you just do that with the flute. Yeah. At the same time.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Stretch it. It stretched me a lot.
Yeah. Okay. My next question for you was kind of in line with how you started on the flute, but how did you know you just loved music in general? Like, how did you know that was something you were passionate about?
Definitely. What kind of took me off with the flute was that I was good at it. To be honest, it's always
Yeah.
when you're good at it. To be honest.
Yeah.
But as far as just loving music, my mom was always playing classical CDs in
Yeah.
the house, like driving in the car, and yeah, I mean, I think most people don't realize how much they appreciate classical music, and
Mm-hmm.
that if you were just to take it away completely, people would be surprised at how much they'd miss it. It just really transports you, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
helps your
agree.
imagination run wild, so.
Yeah. All right, so you've answered all my questions, and you, by far, out of all of my guests that I've had so far, you got the most audience questions, Michelle. So,
I'm honored.
um, I already sent you these. You've had a chance to look at them, but why don't we start with your sister's questions? So these are from Nicole. The first thing and some of these are really great questions. The first thing she asked you was, why did you decide to pursue a master's?
Yeah, so I mean, the obvious, I wanted to be better. I didn't feel ready to just go out into the world after my bachelor's. Also, it was an awesome, I mean, I knew that I wanted to get my master's, like, going into my bachelor's. I already knew that that was something I wanted to do. Um, and then also, it was just the amazing opportunity that I got. I got a scholarship to go to Manhattan School of Music and study with Miss Linda Chesis. And I mean, in New York City, Miss Chesis. I mean, you can't say no. So yeah, basically just to better myself, and the awesome experience that it was. Um, Rachel's saying they were a joint effort. Okay, Rachel.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm so glad I did because it was a whole. it was a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's amazing that you got a scholarship for that. Not many people do. So I think it speaks to your level of playing and your talent. So that's really exciting. Um, her next question, the next joint sister question. Which of your sisters would win in a fight?
You know, I've been thinking about that one. Because Rachel's a little bit bigger. She's a little bit stronger. But Nicole's, I think she's quicker. She has more agility, so she could probably get away better. You know what?
But you would beat them all with your beatbox flute.
Yeah. The reality is, if it was us, I would win. But I'm gonna have to say, I'm sorry, Rachel. Nicole has this level of, you don't mess with Nicole. I'm sorry, Nicole.
And for those who don't know, you have two sisters,
Yeah.
Nicole and Rachel, and they're also musicians too, correct? Didn't she play the clarinet?
She did. She played clarinet at Hope College.
Yeah, yeah. And Rachel was another one of my guests, and she is a violinist and a music teacher too.
Yeah.
All right. Where would you like to be in 10 years?
That is a crazy difficult question, but I would just say honestly playing. I just want to keep playing. I want to perform in whatever capacity I possibly can. I want to be collaborating with other people because that's the most fun, is playing with other people as well. And I want to be teaching. I mean, I'd love to have the kind of studio that's filled with students who go and play or compete in competitions, and people hear them and they say, you know, who do you study with? And hopefully, you know, when they say me, they'll say, ah, that makes sense, you know. All
Yeah.
Great. That would be a dream. So that,
yeah.
I hope for in 10 years.
Awesome. I'll ask this question. Maybe you already answered it. What is your coolest experience in the music industry?
Yeah,
Is that
did kind of with that.
Same one?
That was super
Yeah.
fun. But also, well, actually, the coolest experience in the industry, I haven't been out of school that long, but the opportunities that just being a music student has provided me have been really incredible. I mean, I've toured through Germany and some of like the really big famous music halls, but just recently, in my last year at Manhattan School of Music, I got to play for Jasmine Choi, and that was kind of a dream come true. So
I don't know who that is. Can you explain who that is?
she's amazing. She's amazing. Look, everyone, just look her up. She's incredible. She's a phenomenal performer. She's played orchestrally. She's really great. She's the top.
Okay.
You know.
Very cool.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah. I'll have to look her up. One of the things that I never thought I would be a participant in, and that actually this whole virus kind of screwed up, but I was asked to play with Michael Buble, and that was supposed to happen the end of March, right before all this virus stuff went down. And it was like, it was so disappointing. But just the fact that I was even, you know, I was going to have that opportunity was like, wow, I never thought in my entire life that that is something that my music career could take me to. And it's like, wow, if you just stick with working hard and just pursuing your dreams, you really are going to see fruits from your labor. So, yeah, super cool stuff. I will have to look up, what'd you say, Jasmine Joy?
Jasmine Choi.
Okay. What hobbies do you have besides music?
I do like to read. I haven't been reading very much lately. Well, I have, but not anything fun. I just purchased. Wow, totally blanked on that. Well, Kincadia and a couple other like flute books. You know what I mean? So nothing fun. But you know, lately I've gotten into, and I have to say it because you've been doing some watercoloring, I believe, on your Instagram page. So I kind of got into a little bit of watercoloring, and over like last summer, and my grandma paints, so she got me this little um, painting kit, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right before we moved away. So I've got that, and I've pulled it out a couple of times since we moved. But yeah, that
Yeah.
I like to work out
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I feel like it, and soccer. I love playing soccer. I don't really know anyone here yet to go convince to go play with me yet, but yeah, those are a couple of my hobbies.
Awesome. I thought this was a good question. How has quarantine affected your career?
Yeah, it's affected it big time. So before quarantine, I was going into 5 different schools and teaching, which was awesome. Obviously now I'm not doing that. So my number of students has definitely dwindled, but the few that stuck with it and went online with me, I'm still teaching them. I still teach a master class on Fridays. Well, so today, wow, it's been a long day. So I still teach a master class every week, which is fun. Um, I've been making videos, like practice videos, play along videos. I think I've made over 25 videos.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's definitely changed it. I had some competitions or auditions that were kind of on my radar that I was wanting to do, and I'm just seeing like all of them slowly cancel, one by one. But it's definitely given me more time to work on me and my playing and my craft. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one plus side.
Yeah. Yeah, same. For me, I work for symphony and management, and it's been a little hard in the fact that because of the virus right now, we have had to cancel um, all of our performances for quite a long time. And in some ways, you know, like you were saying, it has given me more time to focus on me. And I was able to play a live stream violin concert and, reach people with music that way. And just, you know, with my job at the symphony in management, a lot of the time it gets hard to practice because I'm working more on administrative things and just being a manager on duty at concerts and rehearsals. But it's hard in a lot of ways, this virus, for musicians, I think, specifically because, we we're an event-based activity. So we play for people, large gatherings, and this is definitely impacting our work a lot. But I think that it's also a time to slow down and rest a little bit, which is also good amidst the chaos sometimes.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Um, your sisters asked, as musicians, we are also artists. How does your creativity manifest itself in other ways besides music?
Yeah. So this question definitely made me stop and think because I'm always saying that outside of music, I'm really not creative. Um, but I mean, like I said, I have an interest in the arts. So I have been dabbling in a little bit of painting. Nothing that I would show anybody. And in high school and younger than that, even I wrote a lot of poetry actually.
Oh, really?
hmm My mom and my husband are always trying to get me to do that again. And then I even did this. Probably would surprise some people, but even dabbled in some like songwriting in college. But again, nothing that I would show anybody. So I guess I can be creative, but only if it's mine and no one else can see it. You know what I mean? other than
Yeah.
other than my flute playing.
Yeah. Maybe someday you'll get there though. You'll work up a nerve to share it.
We'll see.
Their next question to you is, what quarantine trends have you tried?
None. I have not tried any. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if like the hashtag things count as I think they do. I don't know if this counts as a quarantine trend, but the hashtag songs of comfort that I'm sure you're probably familiar with. I think Yo-Yo Ma started it.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is
Hmm.
something that I want to do. Again, probably need to work up a nerve to do this because I don't really post many videos of me playing. Probably because and I think every musician can kind of relate when I say it's never good enough, to post.
Hmm.
You get that feeling of it's not good enough to post, so you just don't.
Yeah.
But that's something that I really want to do. I know there was like a competition through, I believe, Flute Center New York, um, and I long missed that. But that's okay because that's not. I just want to play, and I just like the message of that and how it started. So that would be one thing that I'd like to try. But other than that, quarantine
Hmm.
charges. That's all I got.
Yeah. Okay. Someone in the current questions asked, where can they find the practice videos you said you created?
I don't think they can find them. They were sent like directly to like a private folder for the specific schools, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, so they're not really like
Yeah.
available to the public.
They're confidential
They
information.
are confident.
Okay. This is another great question. What do you feel are pros and cons to the use of social media in the arts?
So I've really seen mostly pros. I've known a lot of people who've made really great connections because of their social media, or who have collaborated with people that they never would have come into contact with without social media. Um, so overall, I think more and more it's becoming like a very big benefit. Um,
Yeah.
I have heard the argument that it cheapens our art. I disagree. Maybe at one time that could be said,
Hmm.
but everything is becoming so social media oriented that I don't think that's true anymore. So,
Yeah, I think that's one thing that symphonies in general, it's been a question with what you said. Does social media and the saturation of videos on the internet of live performances, does it, cheapen the experience? Does it make people, if there's so much on the internet, do people feel like they need to purchase a ticket to go into a concert hall and watch symphony? And I don't know fully the answer to the question. Um, and, but like you said, with my, I'm kind of a multifaceted. So I'm a manager, but I'm also an entrepreneur with my own music endeavors. And like you were saying, with myself, I have seen a lot of pros to social media. Like you were saying, so many connections. And I've even had, people find me on my Instagram and Facebook pages and then ask me to play at weddings and stuff. And I get paid for those services and those events. So for me, like you were saying, I have seen a lot of pros, but I do also see the other side of it where there is a good argument, I think, for, all right, how much of this is it oversaturating people's minds and inboxes? And I'm not sure.
hmm.
But I think we are, and especially now with this whole virus, I think organizations are having to enter the digital place even more than ever before, um, especially the symphony, because sometimes we can be so rooted in the past and doing things a certain way. And I think it's good in some ways that this is kind of forcing us out of our normal box into new things.
For sure.
But okay. The last question from your sisters is, how do you think COVID-19 will affect the arts in schools?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to think about sitting in a tiny little practice room with another person while they blow all over or sometimes spit all over, depending on how young they are. An instrument, just like less than a foot away from you. I'm hoping that the big thing that's gotten out of this whole quarantine thing is a, like what words? how big a comfort music and art can be. So that's my hope,
Hmm.
is that there's a big push and interest in the arts and music because of this. Um, but we'll see. I mean, I hope we're not always, wearing masks and sitting behind glass and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that there will be a big interest and increase in interest in the arts because of this.
That's a really good positive outlook on it. And I would agree because, I mean, especially like you were saying, with so many quarantines happening and people, especially in Michigan, I don't know exactly what it's like in Texas, but we have a stay-at-home order. You know, you can't work unless you're deemed an essential worker. So people are pretty much at home. And I would assume that people, to keep themselves entertained, they're watching movies that have music soundtracks in them.
Mm-hmm.
And they are doing art projects like I've been doing to keep myself occupied, and reading books. And, you know, what would you do? What would life be like with if you took away every form of entertainment that used an artist? What would life look like? It would be so boring and pointless, and there wouldn't be any beauty. And I think what you're saying is exactly right on the point. Like, it's just because people can't go to live concerts. And I've looked at some studies too of concert goers, submitting surveys about what they're looking forward to when things get back to normal. And they want to go to concerts. They want to get out. They want to experience the arts. So I think you're right. I think people really hunger for that. And I hope people as well see the value, and especially the value in educating people in the arts, because if you don't educate people in the arts, you won't have the arts later on. It's just going to die out. But it does raise some questions, because I know that the economy right now is definitely hugely impacted by this. And with that, schools' funding is impacted. And I think sometimes I am not a certified music teacher, so I don't exactly know how the public school systems work. But I know in many cases, the arts are not a core subject. So they are sometimes the first things to get cut.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that, like you were talking about, people in the higher up leadership positions at schools really, they analyze where they can cut, if they need to cut funds and spending, how they can creatively do that to not take away the arts. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
For sure.
Okay, we had two more questions for you. And Um, this one asks, what do you think was the main difference between conservatory versus university?
Yeah, so I think a better comparison to really understand the differences would be undergraduate conservatory and undergraduate university, because obviously your bachelor's and your master's are going to be different. But I think so. For me, it wasn't so much that it was just I wasn't doing any like extracurriculars. No one was forcing me to do math. I could just focus on music. I think that's pretty typical though for your masters in general. Um, so I'd say the biggest difference probably just between conservatory and university is being surrounded by like-minded people, people who have very similar interests, people who are in the arts, who are musicians. Because obviously at a university you get a much bigger pool of people, um, and that was so inspiring. It was so amazing to be at a conservatory with so many incredible musicians. Everybody's working their butts off. Everybody is so focused and so driven, and yeah, I'd say that was probably not that people aren't driven at a university, but there's different programs, different degrees, all that good stuff. But to be surrounded by musicians that are all working together and inspiring you and teaching you, I mean, it was awesome. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. And your last decision, what made you decide to not go for your DMA, your doctorate?
I don't like school. No. I don't like paper. I had no desire and have no desire to teach at the collegiate level, and my goal and my love is teaching individual students one at a time, and playing in any capacity, performing in any capacity that I can. And I didn't need a DMA to do that.
Mhm.
If I felt like I needed some help, I wanted more education or wanted to study with a specific person, I would get like an artist diploma. There it is, something like that, graduate certificate, something like that. I don't really see I don't feel like I need a DMA to do what I want to do, and I'm really not that person either. You know what I mean? I love to play, and I don't
Mhm.
really want to be writing papers and teaching classes. And, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Michelle, this has been such a great talk, and I really appreciate you joining me. I've learned a lot. Do you have anything else you want to say, or for my viewers who don't know you, do you have a website or where people can find you and your music?
I do, michellepokley.com, and you can check out my Instagram as well. I'll probably, hopefully, start posting some videos of my playing as well. Is a goal during this quarantine time.
Awesome.
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me, and yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your afternoon, evening in Texas.
Thank you, Larissa.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.